Welcome back to Eric Reinhold's tutorial on how to build the USS Enterprise in Blender 3D. If you find these tutorials helpful, please like them, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to be notified of new videos when I post them. Today we're going to work on one of the more terrifying aspects of this build. Now, I've been told that this is a fairly poly-dense mesh by some who have been following the tutorial. For me, this is a medium or a medium to low poly-dense mesh, but no word of a lie. Today we are going to be doing probably the heaviest, densest part of the entire mesh, the end of the warp engines, the back end of the warp engines. So I'm going to show two ways. One that's significantly lighter, fewer verts, edges, faces, and so on, and one that's just super heavy. So I'm talking about these ends here, which during the production run, which is what I'm going to be modeling, have these hemispheres sticking out of the ends. However, there have been 3 different versions that were displayed during the run of the series. One with a rectangular feature in them in the pilot. It was only shown on the 3-foot model. One with a series of holes as if they were rocket engines, and of course the famous bulb. If you include the 11-foot model, this very model here, how it was built for the original pilot, the cage, it actually didn't have any features on the end. That was a smooth back end. But we never saw that with the 11-foot model. We only had one shot of the 11-foot model in the entire pilot, and that was where we come from underneath and go over and in through the bridge. All the other shots were the 3-foot model. Here is that back end I was telling you about with all the holes from the second pilot. That's where no man has gone before. You can see it a little clearer here. Lots and lots of holes, and of course you can see the holes that were painted on for the impulse engine for where no man has gone before, right over the squares. If this was clear enough and close enough, you could actually see the rectangular holes there for the impulse engines. This is now I'm trying to get you to see some of the detail that's actually on the sides of these caps. It doesn't look it here, because as soon as you start to get away, this detail is so fine that you'll never see it, which is why I'm going to give you a low poly version, which I say you can, quote, get away with, end quote, and a higher poly dense version. These black and white photos are fairly famous with Star Trek fans and fans of the 11-foot model because they represent the production run Enterprise. I think in the first season, I'm trying to remember. Now you're getting a little closer. You're starting to see that there's some kind of detail here. These edges don't look smooth here nor here. As a matter of fact, there's some kind of detail that's very similar on these blocks, which are quite often just shown as blocks. Here you can start to see that there look to be lines here. Well, this is kind of like a corrugated cardboard or corrugated aluminum texture, but it's really, really small. Here you can start to see it. You can start to see that these are round and that it is actually its own layer which lays atop the block that's on the bottom that goes into the model. You can actually see the separation line right there. And if you look at the back end here, you can actually see more of the same. Now at this point you can't tell, but those are all smooth. Start to see a little closer here that these are roundish. If they look kind of triangular or round, but here if you take a look, you can see that they're actually round. Don't worry, I've got better proof coming up. Whoops. Here we go. Undeniable. So you can see that these are rounded ends here, and these are rounded up and down, like I said, just like corrugated cardboard. Now they start to stretch out because of the angulation of the photograph and the angulation because this what looks like a flat surface here isn't actually flat, it's just smooth. It's rounded, and when we see it from the side again, you'll see just how rounded. See, it's all rounded here. There's not actually a straight surface on the back, with the exception of the lines running down. But these are rounded. So now I'm going to show you how to do something similar. And when you get further away, you can't see it. So I mean, you could, with a really low poly model, just go with cylinders here and maybe get away with a texture. But I'm going to show you how to model it for a faithful reproduction. Again, we're going to have two different versions. This was during the first restoration, but here are one of a couple of Gary Kerr's images, and you can just clearly see this this texture here. And we're going to see it, I think, after the cleanup. Yep, here we go, after the cleanup, and you can see it's the same texture as here. So they took a lot of time when they did this, and they smoothed off the edges, and then they later on for production they affixed those ball ends. And again here, the waffle texture is actually there, but it's all painted uniformly and it's lit uniformly, so you can't even see it. Same here, that texture is still there. It's just when you start to get away, the detail is so small, you see, that as soon as you start to pull away, you start to lose it. And we're going to come back to these photos later on for reinforcement of details here. This texture here, which is almost like a series of tiny little pyramids, and here there's a grate with a bunch of holes. So I mean, we're gonna cover how to do each of these, but today it's the warp engine end caps. Okay, so if you haven't yet, it is time to open up our tutorial, and today I'm going to keep this for now. So I'm going to move this over to 1. I'm going to go to my second layer here. I'm going to grab everything that is here, and I'm going to move this to the first layer. Okay, so now my second layer and my third layer are completely empty. I'm going to go to my empty second layer for now. I'm going to Shift S, cursor to center. All right. While we're setting this up, we're not actually going to follow the Alan's drawings just yet. Instead, I'm going to center my efforts on the cursor here. So I want it kind of centered. That's good enough, I suppose. There we are. Seem to be having middle mouse problems here, but that's okay. It's still centered. We're good to go. And I just need a circle, and if I had to, I could use the Enterprise hull. Not that I intend to. All I need really are the grids and some centering. So first, the easy, quote unquote, version. Shift A, we're going to add a mesh, we're going to add a cylinder. Now, normally this comes with 32 vertices. We're going to take this to 200 verts, and we're going to look at it from the side. Hit 1, and if you tab into it, you can actually see all of this, but I want to go to face selection, deselect everything, Z so that it's solid, and I'm going to select a face. Okay, great. Alternate, because these arrows kind of get in the way, I'm going to take them off. I'm going to turn them off, this 3D manipulator here. I don't need them right now, so I'm going to hold, whoops. Sorry about that. I apologize. Okay, so we're going to right mouse click and select a face. We're going to hit Alt and pick the next face, and it should select all the faces around the edges. All right, cool. 7. Let's go up top, and It's a little easier to see if we turn this invisible or just kind of scooch in a little bit. However, we're not done with our selecting yet. I've still got faces selected. So I want to go to select, and not everybody knows this one. There is a thing called checker deselect. And you can probably see it from the top, but if you go to 1 real fast, and turn Z back on, then it becomes really obvious. Every other face is selected, and that's exactly what I want. All right, so I'm back at top view 7, and we're going to hit E to extrude, and if we were to move it, everything would extrude in one line. So I don't want to do that. What I do, however, want to do is hit scale. And I'm going to scale out just a tiny little bit. I don't want to scale too much. So that actually looks pretty good. I'm going to go to vertex selection, 1, A to deselect everything, Z so that it's transparent. And there's one thing that's unfortunate with doing this scale. That means that these ends have scaled up, and same as on the bottom, these have scaled larger than the rest of the model. So we don't want that. So make sure you deselect everything, B, and just select, say, the top edge. We're going to scale Z 0, enter. A to deselect, we're going to go down to the bottom. B, scale Z 0 on the top of your keypad, not over on the right. And A to deselect. Okay, cool. Z, and now you've got a nice cylinder. Let's do this. I'm going to tab out. I'm going to rotate 90 degrees. And what the heck? I'm going to bring in our cameras and light angles and so on, and lights. And I'm going to go to something like this, and we'll just, let's see, grab Z, center that a little better. And I'm going to render this out just to see what it looks like. I'll come back when it's finished. Okay, this is finishing up. And you can see that even though these are square-edged, it's giving us a similar effect to what you see in the pictures that I was displaying at the beginning. So this is, as far as this model goes, this is fairly low poly. You could certainly use this as an end cap for the rest of what we're going to do in this tutorial. It's lower in poly. There are fewer corrections to be made. And it definitely looks okay. It's just not what I'm going to do in my model. Now I'm going to go back to just my top layer, tab into this, select everything. If you're going to do this right, do it right. Remove doubles and make sure that your normals have been calculated to the outside. And then you can tab out of this. You could move this into place, scale it. All right, I'm going to shift and click layer 1. I'm going to grab this, move it here. Okay, move it into place, and what the heck, I'm going to give it a dark gray. Yeah, alright, so that looks good. And for anybody who's going to use this, you can skip the next section of the tutorial. We're going to do a really high poly version of this next. All right, but that's in place, and it could certainly be used. All right. I'm now going to go to third level, which is, on mine, it's empty, and so is the fourth. So I'm going to go to 7. Again, I'm going to center on my And just to make sure, Shift S, cursor to center. That is definitely, that 3D cursor is now centered. All right. Now, this is going to be different. This is going to be far more complicated. And, yeah, you know what? Just far more complicated certainly tells it like it is. All right, so Shift A, I'm going to add, this time I'm going to add a circle. And we're going to take this, and we're going to turn this to 200 vertices, but we're not actually going to use this as a part of the model. This is going to serve as a guide. So if I was to zoom in, deselect, that'll make it a little easier to see. You can actually see each face or all of the verts, either way, you know, each edge and all of the vertices that make up 200 of these around the outside as a circle. Okay, that's fine. I'm going to get out of that. And I'm going to go, so I'm on my third layer. I'm going to go to layer 4 for now. And I'm going to Shift A and add another circle. But this one I'm taking down. Now normally this is 32, and you can actually see each of the edges here, and the verts are implied where each of those edges meet. This is actually too much for what we're going to do. So if I take this down to, say, 16, now we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Well, 16. 8. There should be 8 per half, per hemisphere. That's actually still a little much. Wonder how low we can get away with. If I do this as 9 is too low. You know what? 10's not bad. But it doesn't give us... You know what? No. 10 will do. So now, if I leave that, we could rotate each of these... we could rotate the whole thing and make it look exactly the same if we rotated every 36 degrees. But half of that, 18, is what we're going to use. So we're going to rotate 18, and now we've got a vert right in the center where we want. Up top is a flat edge. Not so bad. All right, cool. So now this is actually probably one... Well, it doesn't matter. 1 unit. 1 unit is what we're after. Now, this is going to be a little weird. If you hit N, like Navajo, you get all these keys here on the, you get all these helpful things over here on the right-hand side. If you scroll all the way up to transform, you can actually move this around or make changes based on these transform up here, these transform selections. So I'm going to move in the X direction 1. Now, because I've used this and I didn't alter the size of this object, this circle with 10 sides, the vertex where these two edges meet is right in the center. So I'm going to Shift D to copy that. Right mouse click, and it inherits that 1 offset, but I'm going to take this and -1. And so now I've got 2, and their vertices should overlap right here in the center. They should just touch. Okay, hooray for mathematical precision. I'm going to tab, and I'm going to go in and edit this. So I'm going to A to deselect. And I want to pick everything above the midline. So B. I don't want to pick the vertices on the midline, only what's above, and I'm going to delete them. Marvelous. Tab. We're going to select this other. Tab. A to deselect. This time I'm going to select everything below. So B. X. Vertices. Okay, great. Tab. Now we've got two sets of edges and verts, or two lines, or two paths, however you want to look at this, that are going up and down in kind of a waffle texture here. But they're separate. So now Shift, right mouse click. I've got two of them selected, Control J. Now they're one item. If I tab into this and select all, I can remove doubles, and there should be one vert right where they met that was a double. So now I've got an object to work with. I'm going to tab out and A to deselect it. Okay, great. Now I'm going to Shift and left click my third layer. I'm going to highlight my newly created string here, or spline. I'm going to scale this way down. Oh, haha, I have made an error, because I don't want to do that yet. Shift, Control, Alt, C, and I want my origin to geometry, and it should actually be right there at that center cursor as well. That's where the two objects meet. They should be equidistant. So now, if I was to scale, it'll scale right off that center item. It doesn't matter how small I make it, as long as I grab Y and move it up here till it just meets the edge of my circle, my 200 vertices circle. Grab Y. I don't want to move it off of the center, at least not yet. Okay, great. Now, I'm going to go to this circle, tab. Actually, I guess I should rotate this. Hang on one second. Sorry about that. All right. So I'm going to tab out, and I've still got my circle selected, and I want to rotate it 1.8 degrees, I think. So rotate 1.8. Now we're going to tab back in. Oh, no. 1.8 gets me from vertex to vertex. Okay, so Control Z. I want half of that. 9.9. Rotate 0.9 degrees. Tab. And there you go. What do you know? We have a face right in the middle where it matches this thing, this newly created spline we've got. So what I want to do is I want to switch to edge selection. I want to pick that particular edge, Shift D, right mouse click. So now we've literally created a double there. But I want to remove it. I want to P selection, tab out of it, and right mouse click right where that should be, because the circle was selected before. We clicked on the circle, and what's occupying that same spot? Y, the edge that we just duplicated. So I'm going to grab Y and move it just above so that we can see it and how wide it is. So it's just serving as a reference, just like this circle. All right, I'm going to pick our great big spline here, which is actually fairly tiny already. We're going to scale, and we're going to bring it down. Zoom in. As a matter of fact, tell you what, that's in the third. This is in the second. We're going to move this. Actually, you know what? I'm going to delete this. Hang on. We can do better. I'm going to pick this circle. I'm going to tab into it. I'm going to grab that edge again, Shift D, P to separate it. And now I'm going to tab out, grab that line, which is in our third layer, and I'm going to move it to the fourth. Move to the fourth layer. And this should also be in the fourth layer. It is. You can actually see where the object is that you have highlighted. It's in our fourth layer. So I'm going to go down here and just hit fourth. Okay, cool. All I've got is the edge that I wanted for size reference. I'm going to pick my object. Ooh, it's not perfectly centered. So I'm going to... Now, either I could grab this and note where it is, and I could make it match, or I can just grab this and grab Y. The closer I zoom, okay, that's about as good as that's going to get. All right, so now we can see that it's not quite as wide as this face. What I want to do is I want to scale, and I want to make this exactly as wide as this face, because we're going to wind up making an array of these things. So scale, we're going to make an array of these things, and we're going to make them go all the way around in a circle. That's the goal. All right, so now, actually, we're going to do this a couple of times. All right, so go back so I can see my circle and everything. All right, so now the center of the whole scene is right here at this 3D cursor. The center of this circle is at the 3D cursor. But the center of our object that we have selected, this little wavy line, is not centered at this yet. So we are going to change that. We are going to center that little spline here. Shift, Control, Alt, C. And we want now origin to 3D cursor. So now the origin for this little thing is down here. And we're going to add some more. So we don't, well, we'll leave up N for now. But we are going to add something. So Shift A, and we're going to add what's called an empty. I'm just going to pick plane axes. What's an empty? An empty is kind of like a reference. It will work like an object if you want it to. You can focus a camera on an empty. You can make an empty a center of something, like what we're doing right now. Empties are great so that you can reference everything from where you want an object to be or go or act, or in our case, how you want an array to form. So in this case, we're using the empty, which empties do not render. Okay, they're basically invisible, just like the name implies, empty. So now, let's see. Oh, let's go back and pick our object again. You want the wavy object. You don't want the single side or the circle. You want this. We've set our center to this 3D cursor, but if you hit Control A, you can apply that. This is now the standard location. Control A, rotation, oops, and scale. I think you can actually do scale and location at the same time. There's a selection for it, but whatever, traditionalist, right? So now everything says that wavy little line that we made is exactly 1 unit away from the 3D cursor, which is at the center of our scene, where coincidentally we have our empty centered as well. All right, our little wavy thing is still selected, so we're going to go to modifiers, right? And we're going to apply an array. And the default is it's showing us that there's 2. So if we zoom in on this, we can see that we have made it's going perfectly attached, which is fine, but it's in a straight line, so that's not exactly what we want. I do want a fixed count. I want 200 of these, just like what we have for our circle. But you see, they go off in a straight line. So I'm going to take off this relative offset, and it almost looks like it disappears. Don't let that scare you. What we're going to do is we want to offset it off of something. So I'm going to pick offset object by object, right? And we're going to pick, whoops, use the selector tool and see if we can pick our empty. Okay, great. So now our empty is showing up as the offset object. Now, our little wavy thing, our little line is still selected. So if I rotate, I'm really rotating the empty, right? Come up here and I get really close to, all right, let's zoom in and see what we've done. I rotated in the Z direction and I didn't get it perfect. So let's go up here where it says negative 1.81003 degrees. And I'm going to take it to 1.8 and just delete everything except the degree there and hit enter. Now it overlaps, but I'm not done yet. I want to hit merge. Okay. so that we try and get it all to merge here. And some of these are good and some of these aren't. Don't worry about that at the moment. All right. Because we're going to do this more than once. I just wanted to show you, if I deselect everything, here's our original. And for whatever reason, because of the low poly or the merge, I guess, if you don't hit merge, you're going to have, well, don't hit merge then. For right now, this is fine. We would have a ton of poly cleanup to do anyway, but you'll notice we've now got the equivalent, right, of what the exterior looked like for the warp nacelle. Now, it's only a line. But if we apply this, well, tab out, sorry, and then apply. Okay, great. Now I'm going to tab back in, select everything, remove doubles, right? There's each vert on the ends where they were merging together is now a double, and we got rid of that. But doing it this way, we keep the rounded edge, right? Now I'm making sure that I've got everything selected. I'm going to go to vertices just to make sure that we've got, yeah, you can see that why this is going to be so polydense. If we were to take this right now, this actually isn't bad, but it's going to make cleanup hell. However, just to show you, we're going to extrude this in the Z direction, right? Now, if I go Z and make it solid, I'm going to hit remove doubles, even though I know there are none. Go to normals, recalculate outside, tab, and tab out of it. Okay, get a load of what we've got now. We are not done, and as a matter of fact, we're going to undo a lot of this. But if you were to go in, actually, tell you what, while we're here, let's go to smooth shading. That's flipping amazing. We've really got like a corrugated aluminum look to this whole thing. It's just beautiful. Now, it's still fairly high poly, right? Tab back into it and go to like faces. It's so big, it's hard to see all the individual faces. But that's okay. What we're after is getting something that, when it renders like the original. So I'm going to Control Z, Control Z, Z. So we're back down to our line here. If you didn't do my extrusion, you know, you're still good. Control Z. Okay, good. I haven't applied my array yet, but I might as well. Like I said, we're actually going to do this a couple of times, but tab. Let's go take a look at, oh, no. Whoops, come on, Eric. All right, so I'm going to apply this. Okay, so now I'm in edit mode. Marvelous. I'm going to go in. I don't necessarily need my original, but I think my original is going to be cleaner than anything else. I'm going to go to Vertex. All right. Now, I actually don't need most of this, but it's nice to have for a couple of reasons. First, what we're going to do is we're going to make faces out of a lot of this stuff. So I'm going to, well, that hadn't occurred to me. This is going to have more faces than I originally intended, but that's all right. I'm picking 4 faces from the bottom and hit 4 vertices from the bottom and hit F. All right. Actually, you know what? Control Z. A. I've selected everything in my ring, okay? And I'm going to rotate, let's see, until, actually I should have specified, rotate Z. and rotate until we're kind of halfway there. All right, marvelous. A to deselect. Now, you'll notice that these are not perfectly flat, but that's all right. It's because of the curvature around our empty, our center and everything. We actually don't need a lot of that anymore, but we'll clean that up in a minute. So I'm going to do what I was doing before. I'm going to pick vertex on the bottom, vertex on the bottom, the next two, face, won't go. All right, so the next two, face, and the last four, face. Okay, I've only done one. Well, that's okay, because the equivalent, what I'm going to do is we're going to do this whole array thing all over again. But what we're going to do is we're going to keep from, say, here to here. And we're going to delete everything else. So I'm going to delete this vertex, right? And then I'm going to delete this vertex. All right, so I've got one whole unit, up and down, center to, well, edge to edge of the next one. All right, cool. C, and I'm going to select these verts over here just to make it incredibly obvious. X vertices. Okay, and C. X vertices. Now, easier to see, I'm going to delete more of these. And as a matter of fact, if I zoom out, see, I can make this a little larger and just pick everything else. Okay, good. X, whoa, okay, cool. Interesting. We got a lot of doubles left. C. C. X vertices. Wow. Let's center this sucker up. That's amazing. This should have, unless I'm not in transparent mode, C. X vertices. All right, they're all gone, except for our one little item here. I'm going to select all the remaining verts, remove doubles. There was one in there. Hot dog. Okay. All right, well, everything else is still pretty much selected for us. So if we go to Array, right, 200, we're going to remove the relative offset, pick an object to offset off of, select and pick our empty, right? Since our earlier typed in number is still in there, it's good. I'm going to say this time merge, and yeah, it does get rid of this. In my earlier experiment it did so as well, but you know what, it's not so bad. All right, so now we've got a good circle. I'm going to tab out. I'm going to apply, because we're going to do some cleanup, and then we're going to make use of our mirror modifier, because we want this to be a solid object. Again, right now this is just a circle. It's perfectly flat, and if we were to extrude it, it would be very difficult to make it into a solid object. So what we're going to do is we're going to make it into a solid object. All right. So now, if I tab into it, what I want is I want to connect, I want to create a vertex right in the center. So I'm going to pick one vertex up here, say just to the left of center, on my top little bump here, right? I'm going to go down, to the bottom, and I'm going to pick the vertex just to the right. I'm going to hit face. Oh, dope. I'm sorry. I've got my one vertex selected. I deselected my other vertex. Doi. Shift, right mouse click. Now face. Great. Before we do anything else, I'm going to subdivide. And when I hit subdivide, I've created a vertex right in the center. Hard to see unless I zoom in. That is perfectly centered. All right, so now that I've got that selected, and I am just off to the left up here, so I'm going to go over here, and just off to the left, I'm going to shift, right mouse click, and pick that vertex, F for face, A to deselect. All right, so I literally have 1/4 of the circle kind of specified here. If I was to rotate, I could literally rotate and match these up, but it's not really necessary. What is necessary is I'm going to go in and I'm going to hit C, and I'm going to select, I'm not going to select this center vertex here, this one that's on the end of the edge that we just made. I'm going to pick everything after it. And I'm going to pick actually 3/4 of the circle, right? Watch. C. And we'll just pick all of this here, and then I'm going to zoom in up here. There's probably a faster way of doing this. And again, I want to leave everything to the right, so I'm going to hit C, and I'm going to pick everything to the left of that vertex. I'm going to go out, just so we can see what we're doing. X, vertices. I've now got quarter. 1/4 of everything that we're going to do. If you want to be real adventurous, you can pick a certain degree, figure out how many vertices you'd have to fix, but 1/4 of that circle isn't so bad. So now, actually, I'm going to split this screen. I don't need this over here for now. So N to get rid of that side. I'm going to right mouse click right on the edge, pick split area, and just kind of go right in the middle. Okay, cool. I don't need to be in the, I don't need to center on the same area on both. As a matter of fact, what I want to do is I want to pick the center vertex here. So I actually don't even need much space here. I just need to be able to see this one center vertex. So I'm going to pick it. Then I'm going to come up here, and I'm going to pick these two verts, right? Or actually, it's faster if you do this with the edges. So, as a matter of fact, you don't even need this center one anymore. But watch what happens. You hit face, and you create a triangle. So now I'm going to go to the next face, shift, right mouse click, face. This is a fast way of doing those vertex edges. I haven't found an automated way of doing it. And after you get past our original here, where these meet up and they lost a vert, it's actually a little, whoops, it's actually a little faster. Come on, Eric, what have you done? Okay, Control Z, Z, Z. Okay, great. Alrighty. Now I'm going to pick an edge. Why are you not? Okay, edges. Why is that doing that to me? That's very interesting, I must say. Okay, so face, edge selection here, and wow. If I go to verts, hang on, wait a minute, I know what's going on. I must have doubles. A, remove doubles. 1, that's interesting. All right, if I go to edges, edge, shift, right mouse click, edge, face, edge, shift, yeah, right mouse click, face. Now do this for the rest of these faces here. And And when you are done, come back and we will continue. Wait, it really bothers me that it deformed our geometry, so let me see how far back I can go. Hope I haven't done too many steps. If I take off that merge, I'd have to do it all over again. Oh, shoot. All right. Never mind me. I'm going to do it all over again. Hang on. I'll be back in a minute. All right. I deleted everything that I had been working on, except for, of course, this little section that I had you create before. So this is just a couple of steps back. I'm going to remove doubles. I don't need this split window at the moment. Join. Okay. And I'm going to do this again. I'm going to apply my array modifier. I'm going to make this count 200. Right. I'm going to get rid of relative offset. I'm going to pick offset object. I'm going to select my empty, and of course I get this whole thing coming around again. Now, this time I'm not going to pick merge. I'm just going to tab out and apply. So now everything is a lot more circular. However, when I tab in, make sure I select everything, remove doubles. I'm going to have like 200. Yep, 200 verts. Okay, cool. Now I'm going to do what I did before, deselect. I'm going to leave, I'm just going to leave 1/4 of this. So I'm going to pick this vert, X, delete, and then delete all of these. One moment. Sorry about that. All right, so I'm going to start deleting all of these vertices here. I'm going to come in. I'm going to leave this vert. I want to get rid of this and everything else. Right? So, X vertices, leaving just this. All right, come on, Eric. X vertices, great. So I've got this one object, A, selected. I've got all the faces in place. Did I need to do this? Array modifier. Array, forgive me for being interrupted. I've lost my concentration. 200. Relative offset. Object. Pick my, whoops. Pick my empty. Okay, I'm not merging. Tab out. Apply. Okay. Select everything. Remove doubles. 200. Great. Okay, so now I've got, if I was to look at it, I've got very smooth up and down waves going all the way across without losing that indenture here. Now I'm going to do exactly what I had you do before. I'm going to pick one vertex just to the left up top, one vertex just to the right, down at the bottom. Shift right mouse click this time. F for face. Subdivide. So now I've got one vertex here in the center, and this is just off to the left. No matter how you look at it, you'd have to rotate it 180 degrees, and that would be to the left, so it's to the right. So here, we're going to go just above center, right mouse click, shift right mouse click, right? F for face, and now I've got, I could do this quarter or this quarter, A to deselect. So I want to leave this vertex, but I want to delete everything lower than this, so Z, C, and I'm going to pick everything except for that vertex, right? C, go all the way around. Sorry for making this laborious today. C, come really close to the top here. Zoom in. I want to leave that vertex, and I want to delete everything to the left of it. So C. Okay, I've got everything selected that I want. X, vertices, great. Now, I want you to go in and do what we were doing before. Pick the center vertex,